So are today's games training our children to kill?
Research on exposure to television and movie violence suggests that playing violent video games will increase aggressive behavior.
Playing violent video games measurably alters the regions of the brain associated with cognitive function and emotional control after just 1 week of game playing.
Video game research literature reveals that violent video games increase aggressive behavior in children and young adults.
I am not for censoring these things. I don't think you should ban the sale of these violent video games to minors.
This is the first scientific evidence that violent video games actually do have a detectable effect on the brain.
Should the government have control over controllers and say no way to GTA?
This programme is about the popular controversial debate of whether video games cause violence in society. During the next 10 minutes, we'll be conducting an experiment to see whether this statement is true or not. So, do video games really cause violence?
I think there's definitely been a shift towards violent video games more recently. I mean, you had a lot of ones early on, like Mortal Kombat was the big controversy in the 90s, but now there's definitely, I think because there's a more mature audience, there's a push towards more violent games.
I think that some video games are violent. I mean, Call of Duty's quite a good example, but there are lots of other similar games. But at the same time, there are lots of games that don't have any violence in it at all. So good examples are Nintendo games like Mario Kart, which are very popular.
As far as violence is concerned, I don't think there's really a limit to that because it's a simulated violence, essentially.
I think in principle there's a case for banning. I can't sort of identify any specific games, but I don't see any reason why games couldn't be banned if they were deemed to be too violent. And there's certainly a classification system for games at the moment, so that one could imagine that games could be not classified.
I'm definitely for it because I'm against censorship, so I think it's necessary to keep that area, because I think anyone who does commit these crimes, and there's only a small amount of them which do, I think it's more they're predisposed to it rather than the games are causing it.
My kind of personal feeling is that playing video games does cause people to have mood changes and can cause changes in behaviour, but as I say, there's no scientific evidence that suggests that violent video games cause violent behaviour.
Violent video games are becoming more and more accessible. Age ratings aren't stopping parents from buying these for their children, therefore they are exposed at an alarmingly early age. This desensitises them as they grow up, accustomed to this, and they may not realise it is wrong. Video games may make people do things without thinking, especially children.
I don't believe that I've done anything violent because of video games.
When I was younger, I think there's a lot of Street Fighter related violence towards my brother. I did actually break his thumb, fracture his jaw as well. It was all in jest, but it did end quite badly. So, I did do things as a result of that.
On the 20th of April 1999, it was just a usual day at Columbine High School, Colorado. Unfortunately, unknown to the world, this day was to end in tragedy. On the morning of the day in question, 2 senior students of the high school, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, planted a firebomb 2 miles away from the school to divert police and fire services away from the massacre they were about to undertake. That day, they went into the school and opened fire, killing 12 students and a teacher, and injuring 24 others before turning the guns on themselves. The massacre, the biggest of its kind in the United States, brought about in the aftermath the seriousness of gun culture and the world the youth is growing up into today, particularly blaming violent music, movies and video games.
I wouldn't say that I myself find video games violent. I believe there's violence in video games, but I wouldn't say that the games themselves are actually violent.
Yeah, video games are violent. It's one of the main attractions to video games is that they are violent. I've never done anything violent because of video games, at least I don't think so. I think the violence in those situations in Sandy Hook and Columbine were down to the individuals, their thoughts, and not down to the video games that they played.
I think the events of the Columbine one specifically are terrible. I mean, the fact there was a game made about the incidents that happened, and it was set in a school. It was an indie 2D platformer game, and the idea was that you went around playing as the 2 brothers into the school armed with shotguns, and you had to shoot children, teachers, and destroy the place to earn points.
I'm for violent video games because, like films or books or any other form of media which have violence in, it's not going to have that much of an impact on someone. You're either born crazy or you're not.
I don't think that games should be banned. Like, violent aspects to games just make the games more fun, to be honest, and as long as it's not overstepping the mark, which we find as like a acceptable level of violent, then I don't think games should be banned. It's just some shouldn't ever be made. Because of violent video games, I myself never done anything violent. I just think the violence in video games should be left in the games, and if I ever feel stressed out or angry or whatever, I go to play a violent game so I can go out and sort of like take out my anger on the games sort of thing. So in the game I'll go around and like destroy things and that, but myself I would never do anything violent, and I don't believe the games would like make anything violent, make me have any reason to do anything violent. It's just a good way of like stress release, of getting my violence out rather than doing anything else.
Sandy Hook Elementary School was attacked by 20-year-old Adam Lanza on the 14th of December 2012. Adam Lanza, with no evident motive, woke up and shot his mother, an elementary school teacher, before she made her way to work at Sandy Hook. He then drove to the school, shot his way in through a glass window and opened fire in 2 first-grade classrooms, ultimately killing 20 young children and 6 members of staff. After the event of the shooting, investigators found Lanza owned many violent video games and was found to have had an obsession with the weapons within them. They also questioned that if he didn't have access to the weapon, would he have actually done it? Did the games give him confidence? An anonymous Kinetic police officer also claimed that the shooting, and specifically Lanza's suicide, can be attributed to Lanza's video game playing, and that the rest of the police department believes similarly. In this code of a gamer, even a deranged killer like this little bastard, if someone else kills you, they get your points, he said. They believe that's why he killed himself. As part of the first test, we asked the subjects to write down 10 things they would do when given the situation. What would you do if someone crashed into the back of your car in real life and caused significant damage? Both of the subjects wrote down a series of statements, including swearing, acting up and crying, all of which suggest a minor effect by the video games. However, most of the statements given were fairly civilised. For example, ringing the police and asking for insurance details, possibly suggesting that violence is not a major part of a situation in real life, compared with the same situation in a game environment. For the second part of the experiment, we asked the subjects to take part in a multiplayer game against each other, before isolating them and asking them to decide how much chili powder to put in a drink to theoretically be given to the opponent.
So, I've given you chili powder and some water, and now I'm going to give you the opportunity to pour as much chili powder as you want in the water so we could fit to the guy who won.
Okay, so I'm putting chili in the winner's drink.
As much as you want. Just put any amount.
Put chili in his drink? Because that's disgusting. He may have won, but I don't want to put chili in his drink.
Alright, as the winner of the game, I'm going to give you the opportunity to punish your opener as much as you want. So I've given you chili powder and water. So you're going to put as much chili powder as you want in the water and feed it to him.
As much as I want?
Yeah.
Alright. Does he have to drink it?
We'll see. Just, yeah.
There we go. Well, I made it. I'd put the whole thing in, but then it's really not drinkable. There you go. He has to drink that.
I'm going to ask you why you put the chili powder in his drink. You already won him, so why did you?
Because 1, it doesn't happen very often, and 2, I know that if he won, he'd have done the same to me. Plus it's fun.
Would you want to know the results of... Because I asked him to do exactly the same thing and he didn't put any...
Well, he lost, so I'll bet you he put some.
No, he didn't.
Matt, I love you.
So I'm going to ask you why you didn't put any chili powder in your friend's drink and he won you.
So why I didn't put any in his drink? Because
Yeah.
he might have won, but it's just a game, innit? End of the day, he got another chance. I can play him again later on. I can beat his ass later, so...
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't think there's any point making him drink some nasty stuff just because he won a game.
That's good. I asked him to do exactly the same thing and this is what he did.
Oh, he's a bugger. So he won, he wants me to drink all that.
Yeah. How do you feel about it?
Nice. Got some words with him later.
Okay.
Overall, video games have not been found to be a main cause of violence from our brief analysis. However, the mental states of the people that play the video games that act on the violence is another issue. But the question is, what do you think?